Hi everybody, this is my first video. It's pretty unnerving doing this, but anyway, here we go. To start off my first video, we've been talking in our little circle about our libraries, so I wanted to start off by showing kind of some of the books that have influenced me in my walk so far. And I guess I'll start out with the different translations of the Bible that I've been reading. This is a really old Revised Standard Edition. I really enjoy this a lot. This one is the main one I've been reading, mostly because it has my name on it. No, just kidding. I don't think it really matters a whole lot what translation you read, as long as you get the major gist of what you're reading and do a lot of research. They pretty much all say the same thing. I also have Young's literal translation, and I got that as a result of really wanting to know as close to the source as possible of what Jesus was saying in Hebrew. And as a result of that, I some time ago stumbled onto BibleHub.com, which is probably my greatest resource. I can look up, if I remember a snippet of a verse, I can plug that in and look up the verse and then look up the interlinear and see what the original Hebrew is or the original Greek, and that helps a lot. And also, on my trusty Kindle, I do some traveling. My family's scattered all over the place. My mom lives in Canada, and of course I'm from Colorado, so to bring my books with me, this is invaluable. And I'll start off with some of the things I have on here. Right now I am reading actually Nehemiah Gordon's book, Yeshua Jesus versus the Greek Jesus, and this is in an attempt to really know, since Jesus was a Jew, I think we have to know the Hebrew culture, and Jesus wasn't a Protestant, he wasn't a Catholic, he was a Jew, and he spoke to the Jewish people. So I think it's important to know the culture and know who Jesus was, and I think in that context we can figure out what better Jesus was saying. And so I have a couple, maybe a few of Nehemiah Gordon's books. He has a wonderful website as well, and he's a great person to listen to. He is a Karaite Jew, which means that he believes, if I'm getting this right, he believes in the original Hebrew scripture, and as a Jew, of course, he doesn't believe that Jesus is the Messiah, but he still has a lot of valuable wisdom and insight. I also have Ante-Nicene Fathers, the Fathers of the Early Church. I think it's important to go back to the source again, like I said, and on that vein, this was recommended to me. It's a translation of the epistles of Clement of Rome, Polycarp, and Ignatius, and it's pretty close to the very first church fathers. I was a Trinitarian for most of my life, and in the last few years have come to realize that that's not what the Bible teaches. So I've been researching the original biblical text as close. If you want to know something, you got to go as close to the source as possible. So the early church fathers, the ones that actually walked with Paul and talked to people that talked to Jesus, I think are going to have a pretty good insight. This was really good when I was beginning to start my journey. This is Things They Never Told Me. Well, They Never Told Me This in Church by Greg Dybel. Awesome book. It's a really good primer for early church writings, I guess. Another book I have, I don't have it with me, another book that is really good, kind of along these lines, is When Jesus Became God by Richard Rubenstein. And again, he's a Jew. He's a conflict resolution expert, and his book is really good as well. And I have a lot more books than I've had time to read, so this is one that I intend to read someday, but I haven't read yet, and it was recommended to me at some point. It's The History of Dogma by Adolf Harnack, and I started it. I tend to do that a lot, start books and not finish them. What can I say? Of course, I've read pretty much everything written by Anthony Buzzard. He's been wonderful to me. His books and a couple of emails back and forth helping me along my journey, and his insight is just expert, wonderful, divine, whatever. Truth in Translation by Jason David DeBune is another one that it looks like I've almost finished this one. And this is really good to understand how things have been maybe taken out of context, and how, well, accuracy and bias in the English translation of the New Testament. So that sums it up. The Doctrine of the Trinity by Anthony Buzzard, of course, is a good one. And I think this is one that Anthony probably recommended, The Hard Sayings of Jesus by F.F. Bruce. Another one I haven't read yet. And this one I did read. This was a lot. I thought this was going to be way too scholarly for someone like me to read. I've never been to college. I don't claim to be an expert on anything, but this book was actually pretty easy to read, and it made a lot of sense. Obviously, Patrick Nobis has done tons and tons of research. He knows what he's talking about. Excellent book. And Bible Atlas. And also, let's see what else I have on my Kindle. I've also been interested in thinking about the early church and how the gospel was, I believe the gospel was corrupted by politics and political leaders, and leaders of countries would use religion in order to control the people. And as a result of that, I've been interested in how the Catholic Church was formed, and a lot of our doctrines today came from the original Catholic Church. I know that modern church, John Calvin is one of the heroes, and after reading about Michael Servetus, which I didn't even know ever existed until a couple of years ago, it helps to understand how the original message of the gospel was totally corrupted and ripped apart. Bloody battles taking place over how you believe what you believe. Michael Servetus was a victim of that. He was a genius in his own right. He was into cartography and medicine, and just a very prolific writer. And he was contemporary with John Calvin and came up against Calvin and ended up being burned at the stake. And it's just a very interesting story in itself, and just one example of many people that have suffered because of going against the doctrine of the day. Did Calvin Murder Servetus by Stanford Reeves is a book that I started but haven't finished. I also read Out of the Flames by, I think it's Goldstein's, I'm not sure. Anyway, it's called Out of the Flames, and it's in addition to the Calvin and Servetus story, it's also a good history of the early church. And Edward William Fudge is a man who talks a lot about hell and how the Bible portrays hell and how the church portrays hell. He was making a movie, or a movie was being made about his life. He came up against the modern Protestant church. He's lectured and written a few books. I have Hell, A Final Word, very good. see what else I have. Goldstone. Here it is, Out of the Flames by Lawrence and Nancy Goldstone. Another book it's Peter Hitchens is a British columnist, and he wrote The Rage Against God, how atheism led him to believe in God, I guess. It's kind of an autobiography, and I found a lot of wisdom in that book as well. He's a contemporary. He's alive right now, still writing. And Peter Hitchens, The Rage Against God, is a good one. Nehemiah Brown, Prayer to Our Father, About the Lord's Prayer. I haven't read that yet, but I'm anxious to read it. And Who Really Goes to Hell by David Rudell, I believe. I read that. He's a modern writer, and that was a good, interesting book about kind of how the evangelical church works today. And that's about it. I probably have tons more books, but these are kind of the ones that I'm into right now. And I would say most of my research is probably online. I don't have a lot because of my traveling around. Right now I'm living in my son's basement. Traveling around, I just can't take a lot of books with me, so I even though I love books and love to collect them, I have a little collection of antique books. Online is the easiest way for me to do it right now, but someday I plan to have quite a library, or rebuild my library, and these are the seeds right now. So thank you for watching, and if this sounded retarded, I apologize. Like I said, I don't like talking. I'd much rather write, and anybody who's looked at my comments that I posted probably realizes that I can get long-winded in my posts. But anyway, God bless everybody. God grant us wisdom as we all continue on our journey, and goodbye for now.